gotta say, Tim, the editing looks really good.
I'm making a French film.
Yes, you are.
I don't know how that happened. actually, I do know how it happened.
It's really, really good. We've everybody, in case you're late to the shows, we had a little hiatus a few weeks ago during which Tim shot himself a film, and he's cutting it right now, and it's looking really good.
I'm proud to say I shot that film in 10 full days.
Yeah.
10 days. It's a cheaty little film because it's mostly set inside my car. But I shot it in 10 days.
Yeah.
And I know the thing that people like to do. They like to make a movie, make it look good, look like $1 million. They like to do it for $1.95 and then go out and tell people they did it for $1 million. Yeah. That's people. That's Hollywood.
Yeah, sure.
Here's the deal. I'm not doing that. I'm not playing that particular game. I made a movie for $1.95. I made it in 10 days. It's a very good movie starring an excellent young actress. And it's you can do this, and the reason why I want people to know that is because I actually want people to know that you can do this. You can do this.
Yeah, you can. Mm-hmm. And also in the news, we lost Burt Reynolds.
Yeah.
Which I kind of never really imagined was going to happen. We did an interesting little thing on the CineGods site. Go check it out at cinegods.com. Between Tim and Ray and me, we all kind of weighed in on Burt and what he means and represents. And he was, it's weird in the Me Too era, and we can talk about Les Moonves in a second, but in the Me Too era, Burt is that throwback to that Playboy moment, right? Late 60s through the 70s, right into the 80s, when everything was, sexual revolution, and he was the sexy guy, the sexy kid that wouldn't grow up. He did the Playgirl spread. I mean, all that stuff was a departure from previous generations of movie stars. He was a completely iconoclastic and of that era, and yet we still love him.
And I hate to even put that qualifier in front of it, the and yet. I don't want Burt Reynolds to be an and yet person. I think that what we're going to have to start doing in terms of maturing as we deal with these things is simply taking all of the content of a person's life, putting it in some sort of a context. And then letting it weigh out properly.
Yeah.
And there will be those who are at the Matt Lauer, Les Moonves, Harvey Weinstein end of the spectrum who will have done amazing things in their career, but I'm afraid those amazing things are going to be overshadowed by their behavior, their boorish behavior, and that is as it should be. Henceforth and forever, whenever we talk about Harvey Weinstein, we're going to talk about the Harvey Weinstein mess first. Yeah. We're not going to talk about his movies, and that's going to be his ultimate punishment. And people like that. Burt, a man of his period, did things that men shouldn't ought to do during any period. Burt, we will say allegedly because I think you have to in front of these things. Hit Judy Carn allegedly. Hit Lonnie Anderson, and not okay. Not remotely okay. Yeah. In the large context of Burt's life, it seems to me that most of the women he dealt with loved him dearly. Sally Field had some beautiful things to say, and she also had some pretty rough things to say in an article. But she also said she loved him. Yep. So I think with Burt, we got a situation where we can talk about Burt and talk about his movies. We can talk about Sharky's Machine.
Deliverance.
And I know everybody goes to Deliverance. I know.
Well, that's the one that...
Dude, come on, Sharky's Machine.
Sharky's Machine, he owned that movie. It's not an ensemble movie.
Well,
that's
and he directed that. It's not
and he directed it.
Borman is the other movie.
You want to talk about what Burt could do as a director. People forget that. And I think there are two films that bookend his career as a director. Sharky's Machine is one because it's tough and it's badass and it's cool. And the other one is The End.
Oh,
I
my
love
God.
The End.
With his people forget their longtime friend, Don DeLuise. They were 30 year. Yeah. 3-4 movies.
And The End is on Blu-ray now. Yeah. We talked about that some months ago.
And it is as funny today as it was. By the way, all of these movies
suicide.
It's about suicide. All these movies flop. Gator flop. Yeah. I think Burt directed 5 movies or so. Mm-hmm. All failures. Box office failures. Yeah. They all still play. They all still play. I just find that very funny. I talk about Burt in juxtaposition to Clint, kind of contemporaries.
Well, you know what? If you go to that period of the early 70s, Burt was the number one star according to those polls. He was the number one star 5 years in a row. And then he was like 3 of the next 4, something like that. Anyway, the only person that ever beat him in any of those off years was Clint.
Yeah.
So they were the two. They were the big two during those years.
It's interesting that, look, it worked this way. If Bert had a choice between being profound and entertaining, he always chose entertaining.
Yeah.
Clint chose profound.
That's it.
And thus you get Unforgiven and a whole bunch of stuff. With Bert, you get Cannonball Run. And I got to tell you, both of those movies are perfect. Thank God they both exist.
Yeah.
So that's what I think about.
True. And we have to also remember that Bert put Jackie Chan in a couple of those Cannonball Run movies. Now, he played Japanese, which is not acceptable today. It just, that people know better now. Nonetheless, for all of the wacky missteps of those movies, you know what? Jackie was given a big Hollywood paycheck at a time when nobody else was willing to do that.
And he was trying to figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell folks, seriously, if you haven't seen Sharky's Been Seen, which is set in Atlanta, by the way.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And it has one of the best death, Bernie Casey.
Yeah.
That scene?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Come on.
It's
dude.
great.
And Bert directed that scene. Bert let Bernie have that. Bert was like, take it, Bernie. Take it, Bernie. And he ran with it. I got to tell you, too, he did an Elmore Leonard. I think this is his last movie as a director. Maybe not. I think Cop and a Half movie. Stick.
Oh, yeah.
Which was an Elmore Leonard. That's right. A good movie, too.
It is.
Yeah.
Sure
like, so, anyway, Bert.
Yeah. Well, and, of course, Boogie Nights, which got him his Oscar nomination.
He was always a little pissy about that.
Yeah. And his final film, The Last Movie Star, which is loosely based on him, I think is a worthy swan song because it touches on all, it uses clips from his previous movies, and it's very semi-autobiographical in a very respectful way, and
self-reflective. He showed self-reflection in that movie.
And I applaud Adam Rifkin for doing that. That was a sharp movie and a wonderful Valentine. Most stars don't get that kind of a tribute in their final film or in any film.
Yeah.
So it was a good one. All right. Well, with that, we'll jump into some DVDs and Blu-rays. We're getting into the holiday season pretty soon. We will obviously have a lot to say about the awards contenders as they start to emerge from the festivals at Toronto and Telluride and Venice. There's a lot of good stuff coming out, so we'll be talking about that too. I'm going to start off, blow through some kidvid. The Muppets, of course, are kind of always out there in the news. And recently, because of the movie directed by the Happy Time Murders, directed by Jim Henson's son, which is sort of about R-rated, murderous, drug-using, oversexed, Muppety creatures. The brand, I don't want to say it's been tarnished, but it's gone in a different direction. Anyway, Disney still owns the Muppets proper and doesn't really use them to their greatest advantage. So that's why it's nice to always get things like Muppet Babies, Time to Play. Now, anybody who listens to this podcast knows we're not really fond of the thing where you take a group of characters and you make them babies or teenagers, like, Teen Titans or whatever, just to kind of get a little extra mileage. And normally Muppet Babies, when they're animated, are a little bit annoying. But in this case, they're straight up Muppety Muppet Babies, and it actually kind of works. This is Muppet Babies Time to Play. Complete 2 hours of stuff. 4 episodes, a couple of bonus episodes, some 10 different shorts, 6 music videos. And it's cute, and it's wacky, and it's fun, and it's, Kermit and Miss Piggy and Fozzie and Animal and all the rest of them, just as babies, Muppet Babies, Disney Muppet Babies Time to Play. It's fun. I will recommend it. Garfield's Halloween Adventure, just in time for Halloween. Mark Kaiser, of course, does not much care for Garfield. And by the way, we have a little report from Mark today too.
Oh, yeah.
Mark went to a festival in France, in Deauville. Yeah. And gave us a little report. So we chatted with Mark for a few minutes, and we'll have that right at the end of the show.
Yeah.
And
he's right about that cat too.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that. Of course, Mark can't stand Garfield because he likes pizza and all whatever. But yeah, so they kind of threw out a very quickie Garfield Halloween Adventure DVD. No real great reason to get this unless you just want to put something on during the Halloween party and make people wonder why you're a Garfield fan. Then we got a thing called Unikitty. Now, I've never heard of Unikitty. This is a Warner series. This is called Unikitty Sparkle Party. It's very, very clearly Japanese influenced. It's got kind of a weird Hello Kitty vibe to it. and it all takes place in the Unikingdom, and it's all about Princess Unikitty, which is some kind of Lego thing. So I don't quite know where this came from. It's a little anime, a little Lego, a lot of Warner. Anyway, this thing's on television. Apparently it's popular. It's freaky to me. This is a 2-disc set. You get about 16, 17 episodes out of this thing, and it all kind of escapes me. So if somebody wants to tell us what the whole deal is with Unikitty, I would welcome it. It's a very strange phenomenon to me, and it's weird even in the Lego world. We've also got PJ Masks, Mighty Moon Problem. PJ Masks, of course, are little superheroes. That's the thing now. Catboy, Owlette, and Gecko. And there are 6 episodes here, which are perfectly fine and cute. This skews very, very young, but for if you want to kind of temper the superhero exposure for young children from the harder DC and Marvel stuff, that's the way to go. If you want to go a little bit tougher with the superhero stuff, you got the DC animated movie on Blu-ray, DVD, and Movies Anywhere. This is really cool. This is the DC animated movie Freedom Fighters: The Ray. Now, the Ray is not really on my radar as far as the DC superheroes go, but and this all takes place on Earth X, and it really plugs in a very interesting way into the DC universe. If you're a DC aficionado, you will completely get this, and of course, you get Flash and Green Arrow showing up here as well to kind of give you a little anchor into more familiar heroes. But the Ray is a pretty cool hero, and I like the fact that they went out on a limb and they did this. So Freedom Fighters: The Ray, out on Blu-ray. Nice addendum to the DC world. Also from Warner is Scooby-Doo and the Gourmet Ghost. It's an original Scooby-Doo movie. They're not throwing a lot of cameos in here from the World Wrestling Federation or any of the other stuff as they have lately. Of the new Scooby-Doo movies, this one feels more like the older ones. This one feels okay. There's a cooking thing going on here, and is Giada De Laurentiis an actual person? I don't know. That's the chef here
of one of the. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so there is a cameo here. That's what I wasn't sure of. I don't watch cooking shows, so I wasn't sure. Anyway, that doesn't detract from it. It is a so anyway. This one feels like old Scooby-Doo, which I appreciated. We also have from Warner and from Cartoon Network another Ben 10 Omni-Tricked. 17 episodes of Ben 10 here, which is a lot, and they're all very Ben 10-y. This show doesn't really change all that much. It just continues to do the same thing over and over, which I guess is fine for people. I got a couple from PBS Kids. Ready, Jet, Go, Jet's First Halloween. This is a CG animated show that, again, coming out for Halloween, 4 episodes. I haven't really caught the whole Jet phenomenon. Some kids really like it. Again, it skews very, very young. Daughter's not into it because it's a boy. Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, the best of Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood Family Fun Collection. It's funny, my daughter does not really get into this, but I was at somebody's house the other day and their kids were all over it, so I guess somebody likes it. 8 episodes here of the, again, very young skewing Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. And then some good stuff from Nickelodeon. Again, getting into the Halloween spirit of things. We've got Paw Patrol Halloween Heroes, which is, cute if you like Paw Patrol. Again, that skews to boys. We've got SpongeBob SquarePants, The Legend of Boo-Kini Bottom. You get it? It's not Bikini Bottom, it's Boo-Kini, because it's Halloween, and that's why. So it's a little scary SpongeBob SquarePants, which made me think I'm really kind of looking forward to Aquaman in a month and a half. Then we also you're not. I know. I'm hoping it's good. I like Jason Momoa. I do. Tim's not on board. And then an all-new Paw Patrol movie, Mighty Pups, which is a Walmart exclusive. So if you want this one, you got to head on out to Walmart and grab it at Walmart or buy it online. Comes with a Voodoo digital copy that you can add to your library if you have Ultraviolet or Movies Anywhere. All of that already shows up in Voodoo anyway, so there you go. Anyway, that's it for KidVid this week. Nice selection. Nothing really remarkable here except for the Ray, which I think is super cool. Very, very cool on the Ray.
Gotta check that out. For sure. I have a little LGBT cinema here that I'd like to go through. This was a neat little movie called Venus. I love this movie, a Latin movie. This is about a young man, who comes out as female. Right now, his mother has been pressuring him to get married and have a child. Instead, what does she get? He tells her, "No, not only am I not doing that, I'm a woman now." So he does. And then who shows up? His 14-year-old son, who he didn't even know he had. Because, even when you're gay, sometimes you
This is a comedy?
Yeah.
All right.
And it's just as funny as hell as this 14-year-old boy shows up to his dad, who is now a woman, and his grandmother. And the funny thing about it is it sort of all works out, and it's really, really sweet and funny. As one might expect it to be. It's called Venus. It's a very sweet film from Wolf Video on DVD. All kinds of really neat features, too. A few features, including various different subtitles. The Year I Lost My Mind was actually pretty intense. I rather enjoyed this. This film is about a guy who encounters a burglar in his house. They have a very intense moment. He's extremely attracted to the burglar. He starts stalking the burglar. Mm-hmm. Turns the tables. Okay. Very, very intense. A well-made film. And it's mostly just about the sort of nature of that relationship, the thriller part of it. It's only 85 minutes long, German with English subtitles. This one is funny. It's called Sodom. It's about this kid who goes off to one of these sort of, wild sort of gay parties,
Sure. Yeah.
He ends up being...
Hence the title.
Hence the title.
Yeah.
It's right in the title right there. He ends up getting himself handcuffed to a light pole. He's just,
Sure.
But sometimes these things happen. Fortunately, this very nice young pianist... Oh, he's naked. Did I say he was handcuffed naked to the light pole? Naked to the light pole. And only in gay cinema can you get away with that. Think of a movie starring anybody else where you can actually even do that. Anyway, a guy comes along, a young pianist, helps him get off the light pole, takes him home. They start a relationship. It's a very sweet and funny little movie, with a perfectly wonderful title. And then we have one documentary, No Dress Code Required. This is about a couple, an actual couple, a male couple who want to get married down in Baja, California, when it was still illegal, because Baja has its own little Mexicali and all that kind of stuff, and they could have come up to the United States and got married, but they decided not to. And this is a documentary that follows their fight to be able to legally get married in their actual hometown. What's interesting about this is that everybody in the town is totally for it. Like no one is against it. It's just that it just happens to be illegal. But everyone is like, yeah, guys, get married. Everybody is like, but you got to change the law. And I kind of like that. It's sweet.
This is a more diverse collection of LGBT films than what we normally get.
Yeah.
They normally hit a few. It's like faith-based cinema. There's usually a formula, right? A template that they all just
They've figured out you can't do that anymore.
And that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, everybody's just figured out you can't do that anymore.
Can't do that. All right, moving on to new movies. Got a couple of 4Ks here. Going to start off with Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Terrible.
Yeah.
And the
made a
last
crap load of money, but it's still terrible. I just don't care.
They went and got J.A. Bayona to direct it, who is a good director, but is just saddled with a horrible, horrible franchise. The resurrection of this franchise with Jurassic World, I don't know. I mean, of course, I know is money. We could get these actors, and it made a ridiculous amount of money for Universal, but you just can't squeeze any more out of this premise. You just can't. It's like when they just went to the well too often with Jaws.
Yeah.
It's a one-note thing.
Yeah.
You go to a park that's supposed to function, and then the park goes haywire, and now you're running for your life. At a certain point, you stop trying to have a dinosaur park.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you just say, you know what?
It's the central question at the top of this film, that scene with Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
The one moment I like in the film, the central question is, should we do this thing that will kill all the dinosaurs?
Yes, you should.
Finally just kill. And Jeff's, yes, of course we should.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you people? Dinosaurs have been eating the children for 25 years. Kill them It's the dumbest question ever posed in a movie.
It's just they never make the right choice.
No.
It's like every Friday the 13th or Halloween movie. You know what?
Of which there's another one, by the way.
I know. Which apparently is very good. It's David Gordon Green, which is weird.
Not really. Not at this point. When you look at his filmography, it's just a silly mess.
Yeah,
of crap.
It is
mostly crap.
From George Washington to Halloween.
Yeah.
I don't.
And Your Highness is in there.
I know.
Yeah.
Gosh. Anyway, we've said too much about it. It's on 4K Blu-ray, and it's just too much stuff. They got Chris Pratt's Jurassic Journals on here, by the way, too, if that's of any interest to you. But otherwise, I mean, does it look good? Yeah.
Yeah, and then so over here I've got Ocean's 8, right? So Ocean's 8, and was this terrible? No. Am I as pissed at this as was it that? No.
Yeah.
Was it good? No. No, it's not actually good. What's good about it are all these ladies. Yeah. I love these ladies, and I can watch Sandra Bullock just walk around, whatever.
That's a terrific cast.
It's a terrific cast, and even Rihanna there. But other than why not just write a movie, a caper film, for these women?
Why make it Danny Ocean's sister?
Yeah, and jam it into that hole. I mean, I know, again, we ask these questions that we know the answer to.
Yeah.
We franchises and this and that, the same thing with over there. But I don't know, it just seems so,
mercenary.
Mercenary. No, write a movie, a caper film about 8 women, and they can do whatever the hell these women can do rather than just sort of repeat the crap that the boys did in another movie. I think it's kind of insulting. Anyway, there's a whole lot of special feature crap on here.
So we got a Blu-ray movie here called Siberia with Keanu Reeves. This is a truly terrible movie. This was developed within Keanu Reeves's company and with his partner, and I won't get into the details of this because when I had to see this for Film Week, so I saw it in the screening room at WME, and that screening room is very red. Let's just put it that way. Every bit of upholstery in that room is red. So we felt like we were cradled in a womb. I was there with Charles and Claudia, and it was very symbolic because at a certain point we felt like we were sort of trapped behind enemy lines and we couldn't get out. Here's the gist on this. Keanu is a diamond merchant trying to set up a deal in Russia. Molly Ringwald is his wife back home, who you only see through Skype. And he's trying to do a thing, and things are going south, and people are dying, and I won't get into all the gory details, but it's never quite clear why any of this is happening, why he has to be in Russia to orchestrate a deal between someone who has the diamonds, who's already in Russia, and someone who's buying the diamonds, who's already in Russia. It's never quite clear why these diamonds are so valuable, where they came from, why this is an illicit deal, why this... None of this is clear. All it's known is this is how he makes a living. And then there's a Russian woman at a cafe that he winds up having an affair with, and then she gets in on this, and then there's this horrible, horrible scene with a Russian mobster. It's just a bad movie that just goes on forever and doesn't make any sense at all. And then the one special feature on here, Passion and Intrigue, Bringing Siberia to Life, which is a featurette that tries to tell you why this movie exists, and all it does is open more questions. I don't understand.
The Big Take is a movie here. This movie would like to be, any movie that Quentin Tarantino made across the arc of the 90s and a few other directors like him. And it even has Robert Forster in it. Quasi Elmore Leonard kind of thing going on here, but it's really not very good. Interesting cast of people that I really, really like. Generally speaking, James McCaffrey and Zoe Bell from the Quentin Tarantino films. Zoe Bell, Dan Haida, and Robert Forster. Obviously, basically, what you got is this movie star. Movie star made a tape some years ago that he'd rather not go viral. He's being blackmailed. He hires a detective to go out and find the person who's blackmailing him. The detective finds a guy, but that guy is not actually the guy who's blackmailing him. But now that he is involved with this detective and that movie star, he wants to get that movie star to actually agree to make his movie, to be in his movie. And in order to do that, he's willing to do whatever it takes to find the guy who's trying to blackmail the movie star in the first place, the guy the detective was supposed to find. And it sort of spins out of control from there. Anyway, you end up with Zoe Bell with this pickaxe.
Nice.
So,
yeah.
What do you
sure.
Go there. and you're in a perfectly decent little crunchy movie. It's this is not great stuff, and it's certainly a movie Justin Daly directing that's sort of built from and speaking to a whole bunch of crunchy little movies like that. But if there's a world for this kind of stuff, so what the heck?
Got a couple of Blu-rays here. Things go wrong when you think it's just going to be a wonderful little or an average day or a nice little job or a trip or something, and then everything goes wrong and bloody and horrible. Both of these are kind of in that same vein. The first one's an Australian film called Goldstone, Where Worlds Collide. Basically, you got a detective who's doing a routine missing persons inquiry in this small town, and then of course it's not routine. And next thing you know, he's in the muck. But it's a cool, because it's Australian. There's a lot of very specific stuff. It has to do with Aboriginal history, and the wonderful David Gulpilil is in this. David Wenham, Cheng Pei, Jackie Weaver, the Oscar nominee from Animal Kingdom, who I was so delighted to give our LAFCA award to at that time. She's just terrific as always. Really a great cast, sharp little movie. This would have gotten a theatrical release in the United States 15 years ago. It's on Blu-ray now. I do recommend it. It's it's just good independent filmmaking, Aussie style. You definitely want to check it out, Goldstone. And then the other one is Denise Richards and Misha Barton in The Toy Box. Here, this is the tagline: Vacations can be deadly. Yes, they can. Most vacations are deadly. That's why you just don't take them, for crying out loud. So the idea here is that you got this family trying to get over their own issues. They hop in an RV and they head on off to a vacation, which is supposed to be kind of like a therapeutic RV vacation, right? To get your family issues all together. And next thing you know, they're stranded. And things happen, and things really bad happen when you're stranded in the RV. So let's just say this is like a slasher thriller, thriller, horror thriller. Crosses all those things. But normally you go out to the cabin in the woods or to some remote location. The hills have eyes. You're out somewhere remote. And things happen. Here, you take the cabin with you. The RV is just bringing that remote cabin along with you. So wherever that is, that's where trouble are going to be. Anyway, the RV. What's interesting about this is the RV is also a thing, and I can't get into why the RV is a thing, but it's the RV is also a thing. So it's like a character. So the Toy Box, and the title does make sense. It's not just a random thing.
It's an odd thing because that is more or less the exact same movie as this, Truth or Dare, which is a horror movie about these 8 college friends who rent this horror house, a house where several people, young people, were murdered when they were playing this game, Truth or Dare, and they ended up dead. So they're going to rent this house on Halloween, go there, and they're going to play that damn game. You know what happens? Same thing that happened to the other kids, because that's the point of the evil house. It's an evil house, guys. You don't want to go over there. Cinetel Films. Look, this stuff is fine. Halloween's coming up. Get yourself whacked up.
And then we've got Trench 11. Violence is contagious. That's the tagline. Violence is contagious. Trench 11. This is a World War I thriller, kind of a genre thriller of sorts. You got this biological weapon that Allied troops discover when they, after World War I or in the process of wrapping up World War I, they get into this underground bunker, and there's this biological threat. And then it, basically becomes kind of like an alien zombie movie. It's basically what it is. Or a virus movie, Andromeda Strain. In any case, it's one of those movies where there's a biological threat, and now it's eating them alive, and the whole thing. So, but it's extremely well done. It's suspenseful. It's well shot, really well acted, and it's a sharp little indie. And bravo to Robert Johnson and his RLJ Films for Trench 11, which is only on DVD. It's not on Blu-ray. Probably should have been on Blu-ray because it's really well shot. It would have been great on Blu-ray. Interesting.
I got a good one here, too. I covered this film on Film Week as well. Robert Pattinson and Mia Wasikowska. I really have come to well, I've always been nuts about Mia Wasikowska, but Robert Pattinson, who didn't start well with me in those stupid, whatever, vampire movies, I guess they were. And he once he got himself disentangled from that goofy stuff and started hanging out with Cronenberg and real filmmakers, he has developed himself into being a very interesting actor with a good deal more in common with people like Jeremy Irons and There Will Be Blood.
Right.
Daniel
Day-Lewis.
Day-Lewis than with the tight-wearing crowd who bounce around the Marvel and DC universe. He doesn't do that. You'll notice this kid has not put on any tights, dude.
Yeah.
That's on purpose.
Yep.
After he did that vampire crap, he got paid. He's paid. He's like, you know what? I can act for the rest of my life now. So good for him. Robert Pattinson, this movie right here, Damsel. Interesting film. Set in 1870. Robert Pattinson is this guy, quirky guy, and he is ostensibly gone out west to hire Robert Forster to take him to find Mia Wasikowska, who he says has been kidnapped. Right?
Okay.
And taken out into the boonies.
Nice.
He's going to go out there.
Why not?
He's going to get his love back. He's going to, and he's it's all kinds of
very
wacky stuff
Twilight-y.
going. Very Twilight. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Very, very interesting. This is what happens in this movie. This movie walks you right up to a sort of obvious sort of circumstance where a thing that you think is going to happen because it's happened in 1,000 movies just like this movie, and never, not once, does the very obvious thing ever happen at that moment in this movie. You're standing right there. You've seen 100 movies, 1,000 movies. You know what's going to happen. Now it don't happen. Something else happens. The thing that happens instead is a perfectly reasonable thing that could happen at that moment. It's just not ever the thing that you expect to happen in that moment. And this movie does that all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love that. Mia Wasikowska, Damsel. The title, so perfect, because what she would like more than anything else is for all of the men in this movie to leave her the hell alone. That's nice. What's going on in this movie. The Zellners, David Zellner and Nathan Zellner, brothers, directed the film. David Zellner plays a very important character in the film, too. Very good actor, too.
Sweet.
Yeah, neat.
We've got some PBS stuff, and we're going into TV now, and 3 from PBS. The first one on Blu-ray is The Miniaturist, which is based on the Jesse Burton bestseller, and this was aired as part of Masterpiece, takes place in the late 17th century, and it is really, really, really well done, especially anchored by this amazing performance from a young actress named Anya Taylor-Joy, who I've never heard of before. But she is sensational. Look out for her. She's going to be really, really good. This all takes place in Amsterdam. It is a British production, but takes place in Amsterdam, and it's how would you put this? It's almost like a. I hate comparing all these things to Downton Abbey, but this is very much the intrigue in a house. This is the intrigue of a household. It's similar to Downton Abbey in that sense, in that there's all of this stuff that goes on in this household, and it centers around this small miniature of the home, and that's where the title, The Miniaturist, comes from, and the art of miniaturizing things, which is a metaphor for all of the other stuff that goes on in this thing, and the idea of doll houses and things related to dolls have always been kind of a part of really gaudy thriller metaphors. But in this case, it's very interesting. It's very smartly done. And you don't see where this stuff goes. You just see absolutely nothing coming. It's really cool, and the fact that it takes place in 1686 Amsterdam just makes the whole thing even more kind of odd and gothic. It's really, really cool. The Miniaturist, really worth checking out. We also have season 5 of the Great British Baking Show, which continues to make me hungry every single time. I can't make any of these things. My wife is a baker. I cook. As people often say, cooking is art, baking is chemistry. And that's very true. Everything has to be right. You can't just I can put a chicken on the grill, and if it's, 4 minutes or 6 minutes, whatever, it's okay. It still tastes good. Yeah. The difference between, 4 and 6 minutes on the grill isn't much. 4 and 10 minutes isn't even that much.
Salmonella, but other than that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But once it's cooked, right?
Yeah.
No, the difference in baking, the difference between 30 seconds and 35 seconds can be night and day. It
You
can
have
be
to
a
know
complete,
chemistry. Yeah.
it can be complete catastrophe. The difference between, one little tiny piece of yeast and, like a quarter. Okay, I can put as much pepper and salt on most foods as I really want. It's all going to taste. It's going to taste pretty much the same, right? You get like an eighth of a teaspoon of yeast, that changes everything.
Oh yeah, it rises. It don't rise. Yeah.
Anyway, it's an enjoyable show, but seriously, the tarts just killed me. They just about killed me. I just want to eat them so badly. And then Anne of Green Gables continues to come back on television in a million different incarnations. In this one, Fire and Dew. Anne is going off to college, and it drives her parents crazy because they just don't know how to deal with sending a kid to college. That goes on every year all over the world in every country. People send their kids to college, and they freak out because they don't know how to deal with them growing up. Yep. They just happen to do an Anne of Green Gables movie about that.
Outstanding.
There you go.
MacGyver season 2. If you had asked me when they rebooted MacGyver that there would be a MacGyver season 2, I'd have called you crazy.
Yeah.
I continue to be incorrect about these things, as Magnum PI and Hawaii Five-0 and all of the sort of television shows of the 70s and 80s that you and I grew up loving get rebooted. I hate every single one of them. I hate this one. But there it is, season 2, and I imagine there will be a season 3. MacGyver in Cuba, saving the day, blah blah blah, all this kind of crap. Gag reel, deleted scenes. Once, again, if you had told me, I think it's almost been
Once Upon a Time.
Once Upon a Time, Once Upon a Time. If you had told me back when they created this series with that little boy and that whole storyline in Storybrooke and him crossing over Cinderella, Hooked, and all this kind of crap, that this would last 22 episodes.
Yeah.
In this final must-see season, and they did everything you can possibly do in this goofy show. And there it is. People just love this stuff, and I just don't get it.
I've never understood this show. My mother-in-law loves it. It's one of the few things. Look, as people of my beloved mother-in-law's generation are prone to do, they are kind of Luddites. She can pick up her cell phone and have absolutely no idea how to get a text, how to read a text, how to send. It's a mystery box to her. That cell phone is a mystery box. We can sit and watch this show. She understands every single interlocking storyline and every single overlapping nonlinear.
Yeah.
She gets this thing. I'm confused to death. I don't get it.
There are like 3 different hooks in this show.
It's ridiculous.
A hook in this realm and a hook in that realm, and all this. It's all bananas. But there are people love it. All kinds of bonus extras, Blu-ray, this, that, and the other thing on here. Once Upon a Time. Final season, 22 episodes.
The very, very cool Swedish series Modus is in its season 2. Kino Lorber snatched this one up. I would normally have expected this from MHZ Networks, but they're getting some stuff over there at Kino. In any case, this is season 2 of Modus, which is a really, really, really cool political kind of thriller show. I guess the best way to explain this is based on the best-selling novels by Anne Holt. And Kim Cattrall is in this, by the way. Kim Cattrall plays the president of the United States.
Yeah, outstanding.
Yeah, but it's there's this is all about political intrigue, mostly between the United States and Sweden in this second season. And you would think that there wouldn't be a whole lot of mileage there, but somehow Sweden, as sweet and lovely as it is, they find room for intrigue. Girl with the dragon tattoo and all that stuff. There are dark corners in that country that suggest all kinds. So it's not quite like House of Cards.
Yeah.
But there are aspects of that to it, and some really really great performances here, especially by Melinda Kinnaman, who plays the criminal profiler Inger Johanna, and Henrik Norlin as the police superintendent. So it's really good. Modus season 2.
And along the same lines, the must-own final 2 seasons of Scandal, set in the political intrigue of the United States, kind of. Interesting. Final 2 seasons, so you have season 6 and the complete and actual final season, season 7, in this box set here. Some of the most profound television of the last 10 or 15 years has been created by Shonda Rhimes.
Yep.
Shonda, a sister. And I just think that it should go noted that it marked a profound change in the dynamic of television that a black woman has been able to create, produce, and put on television, I don't know, some 6 or 7 series now, most of which have been really successful, including Scandal, for more than a decade. I mean, that has to be marked.
It does have to be marked, and we've talked about this on this show before, which is that most of these barriers that people imagine are economic barriers, they really aren't. It's only once you knock them down that you realize that you've been depriving yourself. It's the old Fred Williamson story, right? He went to Cannes to sell his movies, and people said nobody wants to buy a movie with with you in it, and he's like, yeah, we'll see.
You better take we're going to give you $1.95.
Yeah, $1.95.
You're black.
Yeah,
and if they don't in Europe, and no.
He waited. And he waited, and then the last day of the festival, they all came back and paid the man what he wanted.
Yeah.
So these things do have a way of self-correcting over time.
Yeah.
I wish it didn't take so much time, but it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Looming Tower, limited series Looming Tower, is not as good as the book. I bought this book right around the time that it came out, which was within about a year and a half of 9/11.
Yeah.
Anniversary
just
a few days ago.
Yeah, a couple of days ago.
Anyway, the Looming Tower is essentially the journalistic account of the rise of the book I'm talking about, the rise of Osama bin Laden and Al Qaeda, and how the failure of our intelligence services contributed to that rise, and on and on and on. It's a fascinating book. It's really incredibly well researched, incredibly well documented and supported and footnoted and all that stuff. And if you have a chance to read it, if you haven't read it, it's superb. It's absolutely superb. It was especially superb, when it came out, because it was just so much in the shadow of 9/11 and how did this happen. In any case, they turned the book finally into a miniseries, and obviously had to carve it down to its bare essence and invent a lot of stuff in terms of characters and incidents to sort of clear the dramatic hurdles necessary to take a very dense nonfiction book and make it dramatic. That's fair enough. They kept intact all the essential stuff. So I would almost say if you watch this with Zero Dark 30, that works best for me, because they complement each other in a really great way. Otherwise, despite kind of bare bonesing it, some wonderful performances in here, some really terrific stuff, especially from Jeff Daniels, who can do absolutely no wrong anywhere at any time. He just keeps killing it. So, and you get some behind the scenes featurettes and some commentaries and things like that. But otherwise, Blu-ray and digital copy version of Looming Tower limited series, just superb.
I have the complete 3rd season of Supergirl. People who listen to this show know that my favorite thing on the planet is Supergirl. I love her so much. And I love this series. I love this actress as Supergirl. And I love this season. This was a really, really great season. It was a very emotional season of Supergirl, where Kara she's just like, this whole sort of Kara Danvers thing, maybe I'll just keep this outfit on and be Supergirl 24 hours a day. How about that? And I'll just skip all that other crap and and go around banging stuff. And who just like so, and you got Rain and all that kind of stuff, and the World Killers. This also completes all 4 of the crossover episodes with the Arrow and the DC Legends of Tomorrow and the Flash and all that kind of stuff. A whole bunch of featurettes. Look, man, if you don't do anything else with any of the things we talk about today, this is the thing to get. I could just do this all day, every day, and then the Flash. But right now, Supergirl, 3rd complete season.
So, Watcher in the Woods was an old Disney movie that they apparently felt, hey, let's make this again. Now, it's not based on the Disney movie. It's based on the original source material, the same source material as the Disney film, Watcher in the Woods. And Melissa Joan Hart decided, I'm going to direct this. So Melissa Joan Hart stepped behind the camera, made Watcher in the Woods with Angelica Houston and Tallulah Evans, and it's basically the same thing. I don't know if it's better. I don't know if it's worse. I mean, it's certainly stylized. It's decent for a Lifetime TV movie. And it's the idea of this girl who went missing, and then another girl who looks like her, and the creepy old lady in the manor, and don't go in the woods, and yada yada yada. It's the same old thing. So anyway, Watcher in the Woods. New version, directed by Melissa Joan Hart. If you like the original, you'll like this too.
Scorpion, the final season. Thank goodness. I hated this crappy show. Near an hour of special features. Look, why is it that whenever Americans do sort of super scientisty, sort of detective-y kind of, like, they're always quirky.
Yeah.
And every single person in this show was a quirky stereotype of a character. You know what I mean? It's like a '60s television show or something, like a nerd over here and this quick over. Oh man, I just hated it. Scorpion, the final season. Thank God. Madam Secretary, starring season 4. Look, I appreciated this show. I liked it a lot. I always had a hard time getting through it because you and I know that we developed a series.
Yeah.
And I watched the show and I think about that series. I'm like, oh,
I know.
man.
I know.
I hate this town sometimes. But nevertheless, Tia Leone is fantastic in it. It's a pretty solid show. Special features include deleted scenes and some extended episodes and whatnot. Madam Secretary, season 4.
Got a little gem here. This is on Blu-ray from the VCI Entertainment, distributed by MVD. This heralds really good things to come. This is Volume 1 of television's lost classics. Now, there's a lot of TV from the 1950s most TV from the 1950s we don't even have anymore. I think the Milton Berle Buick Hour specials that were out on from Image on DVD, that's out of print. There's a lot of great stuff that is just impossible to get now. What we've got here in Volume 1 are 2 new high-definition restorations of primetime specials directed by Sidney Lumet. That's right. There is Crime in the Streets and No Right to Kill, both of them starring John Cassavetes. Now, I just want to say, Sidney Lumet, John Cassavetes, live TV drama.
Man.
I shouldn't need to tell you what these are about. It doesn't matter. The titles actually tell you what it's about: Crime in the Streets and No Right to Kill. I'm sorry, that's all you need to know. But this is when people really cut their teeth as directors. Why was Sidney Lumet such a good director? Because he had to go out there with actors, rehearse the hell out of them like they were going to put on a stage performance.
Yep.
And then go out and cameras roll, and you're not just up on stage performing now for a room full of a few hundred or maybe 1,000 people. No, you're in front of cameras with millions of people watching you in their homes, and the actors aren't just hitting the proscenium. They've got to hit marks for cameras, and cameras have to hit marks, and these cameras don't have,
giant cameras on them.
No, these are, everything about this is what directing. This is where you really cut your teeth. Why was Sidney Lumet such a great film director? Because this is where he went to school.
Yeah,
this doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, all of that was actually before film schools. They were figuring it out as they were going along.
Amazing.
Sidney Lumet, wonderful photographer and cinematographer, though people forget.
Watching this, you learn so much. So I highly recommend this. Television's Lost Classics. Volume 1, the primetime specials, Crime in the Streets, and No Right to Kill. Honestly, this is just superb. You can't do wrong.
And Modern Family, the complete 9th season. Who would have thunk again? But I suppose that's sort of probably a...
Yep.
Yeah, sure. Anyway, 3 disc sets contains all 22 episodes of the 9th season. Special features includes a gag reel. Look, I watched about a season and a half of this, maybe back when it first started, and I think I might have dipped into like the 5th season or something like that. It's a really sweet, funny show. I can see why people like it. But, I bailed well before the 9th season. I'm going to assume this is all pretty good.
All righty. And then we've got Paterno, the Al Pacino basically playing Paterno. Joe Paterno, the great college football coach at Penn, Penn State, who kind of would have had the greatest legacy of all time, if not for that whole
harkens back to what we were talking about before.
Jerry Sandusky and the whole anyway. Yeah,
can't talk about Joe and just football no more.
Yeah, it's sad. It really tarnished a whole legacy, but nonetheless, there's still a lot of legacy there. But it makes for great drama. And Al Pacino, you know what? He really does a great job. I mean, Al Pacino can be a real ham at this state, and he's not somebody that I would normally cast in a biographical role. Like, can Al become this person? He does. He's straight up Paterno.
He's done it twice now because he did it playing Kevorkian too.
Oh,
in that
right.
HBO movie.
That's right.
And frankly, I think that's when Al gets contained a little because Al will go,
but gets very broad.
But when he has to play a guy, then he has to play that guy, and fortunately he will submit.
Well, anyway, this is quite good. This is on DVD from HBO, not on Blu-ray. Not quite sure why, but it comes with Ultraviolet, so you can add that and always have it at hand.
Silicon Valley, the original HBO series from Mike Judge and Alligator. Look, this was a neat show. This is the complete 5th season. It blows me away how long some of these shows sort of hang around, and it's interesting. The sort of group of actors that these shows sort of spit out. This is about a guy trying to build a company in Silicon Valley, and all the trials and trails and tribulations of that. It's a pretty good show. It's been nominated for several Emmys. There's not a whole lot of special features on this Ultraviolet digital copy. So Silicon Valley.
All right. And then last on the TV end, before we kick into a few documentaries to wrap the show out, is Murdoch Mysteries, Home for the Holidays.
I love the Murdoch Mysteries. And
this is the first holiday themed thing. I would normally hang on to this for our holiday show, but they got this out so early. It is not even October yet.
Yeah.
And they've already got this thing out. So the Murdoch's Family Christmas turns deadly. No. Yes. So we got the holiday whodunit in this feature-length Murdoch Mysteries, Home for the Holidays, out in time to get everybody completely nuts about Christmas coming on. It's really good. I mean, it's not too dark. It's just right, and it's really smart. And this show continues to be just the most endlessly solid show on British television. It year after year after year, it never ends, and it's great. Murdoch Mysteries, Home for the Holidays. Let's do some docs.
Let's see. You want to go?
Yeah, let me hit this. I got some PBS stuff here. Animal Mummies from Nova. This is okay. In ancient Egypt, they didn't just mummify people; they mummified their pets. And it's really weird. But anyway, this gets into all of the animals. The discovery of the animals that were mummified in ancient Egypt, and it's really kind of interesting and fascinating. Because there's, you would think, okay, cats for sure. We know the Egyptians were into cats. All right, dogs, fair enough. They like mummified fish, the beetles, crocodiles. Is like all kinds. It just gets weird, man. It gets really freaky. So this is the exploration as to why and what was the point of this, and like beetles. Why would you mummify a beetle? So this is this all is kind of a forensic effort getting into the archaeology of it, and it's really interesting. It's typically great Nova stuff. Another Nova that's really timely right now, because as we're recording this, the Hurricane Florence is just pummeling people in North and South Carolina. I've got a friend, an old film school buddy in North Carolina, who's posting some very interesting and cryptic Facebook things. I'm not quite sure if he stayed to weather it or not. It's weird. I'm trying to figure out, are you safe? Are you not? Are you?
Well, if he's posting, he's got an internet connection.
Are you delirious? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, it's called Rise of the Superstorms. And this sort of focuses primarily on the summer of 2017, when there were just a series of really massive storms, beginning with Harvey and what it did to Houston. And, that wasn't that long ago. That was... it feels like a long time ago. But anyway, so this is dealing with climate change and how the impact that it has and how you deal with the storms and are they going to end, and a lot of climatology and science in this and meteorology. But it's interesting in the way that it looks toward the future. How do we cope with this in the future? And it's really good. So more engaging than something with this much science would normally be to me. And then Frontline does their typically amazing work on UN sex abuse scandal, which has kind of fallen off the headlines a little bit. But there are nearly 2,000 allegations of sexual abuse by UN peacekeepers in all places all around the world that still have to be dealt with. And this goes to the nuts and bolts of that, and it gets into some details so that they're not just numbers. Who are the people that these happen to? Who are the children that these happen to? Who did them? Who's accused? How did it happen? And it's gut-wrenching once you get past the statistics and you start to see the human faces. It's really it's hard to watch, but it's essential. UN sex abuse scandal. All of that from PBS.
Wow. That's amazing. An American Murder Mystery from Lionsgate. This is a 3-disc collection that takes a look at 6 of the most infamous, I guess you would call them.
Oh, this is the one that has the Natalie Wood.
Yeah, including the Natalie, which is an odd one, if you asked me. So it includes the Casey Anthony case, the Scott Peterson case, the Joan Benet Ramsey case, the Jodi Arias case. I don't really remember that one. The Chandra Levy case. And of course the Natalie Woods case, the one celebrity sort of case that I think is a weird sort of outlier. Anyway, it looks at everything that has ever been collected with respect to legal documents and interviews and all of the business that is associated with each one of these cases. It does not draw any conclusions about any of them. But you know, for folks sort of like interested in that sort of business, of which I never have been, to be honest. The fact of the matter is, lots of murders go unsolved.
Yeah,
most
true.
Murders go unsolved. It's what actually happens in this nation. Rolling Stone, Stories from the Edge, 50 years defining our culture. What's interesting about this, Jeff Daniels narrating, directed by Oscar-winning director Alex Gibney, is that in addition to looking at the music, Rolling Stone magazine, you almost have to look at all of pop culture as well as politics. The feminine movement, feminist movement, the politics of race come into stark reveal here, because particularly as hip hop music and acts like Ice-T and Ice Cube come onto the scene in the 90s, and what that means in terms of politics and all of that is covered here. So yeah, it's about Rolling Stone and music and 50 years of that, absolutely, but everything is just covered in this. Narrated both by Johnny Depp and Jeff Daniels.
So one of the books that was a big deal when I was growing up was Island of the Blue Dolphins. When I was in elementary school, that was essential kind of young reader source material. Island of the Blue Dolphins. And but it's still good to read. It's written in a way that's very accessible for kids, and the story is very really strong. And it's a survival story, but it's not too dark, and it's a great novel, and it's sold millions and millions of copies. It's also a very American story. The young Native American girl who spent 18 years on one of the Channel Islands out here off of the coast of Santa Barbara. So, I mean, it's a great story. Anyway, this is a documentary about that actual woman. So, Alone on the Island of the Blue Dolphins, a documentary by Paul Goldsmith, who goes to the actual places and gets in all the archival material and really does all the heavy lifting to kind of tell you this story in a very, very tight hour. What's interesting is I don't think when I read the book as a kid, I ever realized that it was a true story.
Based on a true story,
until I went to the Santa Barbara mission where she is buried. And that's where you go, oh my gosh, that's a real story. That wasn't just like made up or whatever. Like it sort of dawns on you in that moment. So if this takes it the extra step and really goes the extra length, and it's just wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. Alone on the Island of Blue Dolphins from First Run Features.
Fantastic. A wonderful little fashion documentary about fashion maven Vivienne Westwood. I love fashion, all this kind of stuff. Vivienne Westwood, and Malcolm McLaren, who was the manager of the Sex Pistols about 45 years ago, 50 years ago now, really sparked the whole sort of punk fashion movement.
Yep.
And she's just an icon and a feminist and a trailblazer. This is a neat little documentary. These people plainly love Vivienne Westwood. I do too, and she's still a badass and a punk icon. Lorna Tucker is the director of Westwood.
Fantastic. And then we'll do 2 more. We'll do that one and then this one, and then we'll release from Mark and his report from Deauville to Hell and Back, the Kane Hodder story. Now, if you've been living in a cave, then you're the only person that understands that Kane Hodder is a legend in horror films. Kane Hodder basically is known for playing Jason Voorhees in the Friday the 13th films, all of them. He's the guy that puts the mask on,
big dude,
puts his hulking body behind it, and that requires some acting too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he is just chopping people's heads off and using chainsaws and axes and murdering people, and he's wearing a mask so you don't have to emote through your face.
All of that can be done badly.
But that could be done badly.
Yeah.
As if you saw when they brought Darth Vader back in the recent Star Wars film.
Solo.
And they did not put it was the one before Solo. It
was, whatever it was. Yeah.
When they did not go and get David Prowse to put in the suit, you could tell that it was not David Prowse.
No, it's a big guy.
Just a big guy. It's so there is acting there. Anyway, so this is all about Kane Hodder and telling you about his childhood and how he became a stuntman. And how he got into how he got into these films, and you have all kinds of people who've worked with him who are interviewed in this. It's a really, really interesting documentary about a guy who doesn't get enough credit. To Hell and Back, the Kane Hodder story.
Ah, wow, interesting stuff over there. This is a rather painful documentary. It harkens back to a day that I remember, 1987. A Vietnam-era veteran named Brian Willson was protesting the shipment of weapons to Nicaragua. This is a big deal in the 80s. I think I was still in the Air Force when all that was going on. Iran-Contra. I mean, you remember it all. It was just a mess. Oliver North. And he was protesting the shipment of these arms to Nicaragua. He laid down on these train tracks at a naval station where the shipment was going to go through, and someone ordered the train to press forward. He lost both legs. And this is all about that period, that era, what it has meant to him, and blah, blah, blah. It's really, really a very poignant and moving movie. I do not know that I have that kind of commitment to any issue other than the salvation of friends and family.
There you go.
I jump in front of a train for a human that I love, but not for an issue. I do not think.
I just saw a thing the other day about some guy that took a machete to save a lady, just stranger. He jumped in front of a machete. Somebody was attacking people and jumped in front of a machete.
Yeah.
He survived, but would I do that? I don't know.
I don't know.
And until you're in the moment.
Yeah.
All right, so we had a chance to talk to Mark from Deauville. We did a little Skype session, and we're going to wrap the show out. Here is our conversation with Deauville Mark. All right, as long as Skype does not do a Doris Day on us, and that's a reference to a Lafka dinner that we would all prefer to forget. Tim and I are in separate locations, and Mark is in Deauville, reporting on the Deauville Film Festival, which none of us have ever been to. Mark, how has Deauville been?
I wasn't expecting much. By the way, hello to all the DigiGods listeners. I have not been a part of the podcast for many months, and it is my pleasure to be back. So I had never been to Deauville either. It is a beautiful seaside town in the Normandy region of France, which Wade obviously knows very well. And, I was not expecting much because Deauville is not considered a major film festival. It's actually called the Deauville American Film Festival because all the films at the festival are American. And so, yes, you're literally flying 5,000 miles away from America to go see a bunch of films that are American. But that's how they roll. And, I have to say, I've seen nothing but good films here. There's a competition, and actually tonight is the awards ceremony where they're going to give out the awards and Best Picture and Best Actor and whatnot. But otherwise, I've seen nothing but good films. They don't really have, blockbusters here. A lot of them are independent films, stuff like, Thunder Road, which is a great serial-comic character study by Jim Cummings. Monsters and Men and American Animals, which already came out. Puzzle is in competition here. Now, Puzzle is absolutely terrific. That's the one with Kelly MacDonald.
Oh, if I'm
great.
Yeah.
And so there's been nothing but great films here. Another thing they do, which is kind of fun, is Deauville is a seaside town, and what they have in Deauville is they have these beach cabins. They have a very, very long boardwalk. And this long boardwalk just has nothing but beach cabins. And each beach cabin is dedicated to a different celebrity. And the celebrity has to come down, and there's like an American flag over their cabin. And they come down, and if they are honored with their own cabin, they fly down to Deauville, and there's a big christening ceremony for their cabin. And every year, a couple celebrities get their own cabin. And literally, they have like Ilya Kazan has a cabin. Everybody from Elia Kazan to Adam Sandler have cabins. There's hundreds of them. And I mean, Gene Hackman and William Holden and Robert Mitchum, they all have cabins. Harrison Ford, I think, had his cabin given him a couple years ago. This year was Morgan Freeman, Sarah Jessica Parker, and for some reason Jason Clarke, which I don't understand because he's not that great. I mean, he's fine. I mean, we love Jason Clarke, but he's not like he's not Elia Kazan. So that was fun. I went to the unveiling of the Sarah Jessica Parker cabin. She was there, and she signs the thing, waves to fans, whatever. And also last night was a very fun tribute to Morgan Freeman. They have 3 theaters here. One, the main theater is huge. It is literally almost as big as the Academy Theater on Wilshire Boulevard in Los Angeles.
Wow!
And that's where the Morgan Freeman tribute took place, and obviously Morgan was there. There was a French film critic spoke, a French actor I never heard of spoke, and then Morgan came up and he spoke, and that was kind of nice. And there's 2 other theaters. One is at a casino. There's a major casino here in Deauville. There's also horse racing in Deauville and tennis in Deauville. Those are like the big things that they do. The mayor of Deauville has done a great job in making the town constantly interesting all year long with various festivals and whatnot. So there's the main theater, which is enormous. There's the theater in the casino, which is multiplex size, and then there's another theater that regular people go to that they just repurpose for the festival. So there's only 3 theaters, so it's not a huge festival, but there's a lot of good films, and I've seen a lot, and I'm posting reviews on DigiGods.com as fast as I can, and so yeah, that's what I'm doing, and also getting drunk.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that on the Facebook page.
Here's the thing. Listen to me. It's something very important you have to know. So in Normandy, there are 2 major hotels, gorgeous hotels over 100 years old. One is called the Normandy, and it's Deauville's, which again is in the Normandy region of France. It's Deauville's, oldest hotel, I believe. It's gorgeous, and they have a beautiful bar. And in this bar, they have alcohol. Okay, Tim's familiar with alcohol. Wade, not so much, but
I've seen it.
And each drink is 21 euros. Now, 21 euros is about $24, something like that. Now, I'm not working. I haven't worked in a long time because I am traipsing around Europe. So the idea of spending $21 on a drink, not my favorite thing. But I will tell you this. First of all, the drinks are unbelievably delicious. So good. Plus, they give you a little coffee cup-sized cup of cashews, another coffee cup-sized cup of chopped vegetables, and a third coffee cup-sized cup of nuts. And sometimes, if you stay there long enough, they come around with these little French puff pastries. So basically, it's 21 euros, but it's not just a drink, it's dinner.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I got it all figured out. Let me tell you something. I know how to spend 21 euros well. I'm going to get drunk and fat and full. It's what I do, Wade.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm trying to think what questions. Tim, do we have any questions for him? He kind of seems to have covered all the bases. Thank you, Mark. Goodbye. That's great.
Thanks, Wade. Good to see you guys. Fantastic.
I do have a question regarding the films that are over there. First of all, are they familiar with the fact that the wonderful actor Burt Reynolds died, and how are the French handling that business?
They're not handling Burt really at all. They're not really into the Burt Reynolds thing. The people that I've talked to about it, they acknowledge that Burt Reynolds was a thing in America, but obviously he had a certain cultural importance within the continuum of Hollywood stardom that really means more to us than it does to them.
In other words,
he's no Jerry Lewis.
Just gonna say
nobody's Jerry Lewis.
Okay.
But it's funny because one of the most anticipated documentaries here, they have a special section for documentaries, and one of the most anticipated ones here, which I saw and is terrific, is called "Nice Girls Don't Stay for Breakfast," and that's Bruce Weber's documentary about Robert Mitchum. And Robert Mitchum, who does have a cabin here, cabin dedicated to him, he's the topic of this documentary. Bruce Weber, so it's black and white and very impressionistic, and it's not a typical biographical documentary. Most of it was shot when Mitchum was a lot older, but it's terrific. But they love. I mean, that screen was packed. for Nice Girls Don't Stay for Breakfast. So that was nice to see. Also, by the way, another documentary which I posted a review on Synagogues is the Whitney Houston documentary.
Oh,
Kevin
yes.
McDonald.
Yeah.
Which is terrific. It's really good. I mean, again, he's trying to find out how this 19-year-old, this beautiful, talented 19-year-old girl became this complete drug-addicted wastrel, and he really, a forensic level of research, winds up tracking it down to her family. She was pretty much doomed from the start. And if you see this documentary, Whitney, by Kevin McDonald, you'll get a very fine sense of that.
Yeah, it's really sort of interesting story. Funny, all these years after Whitney's death, there's right now running on BET. There's a Bobby Brown, Whitney Houston's husband, biopic, kind of a biopic running. And I don't know, it's really, really interesting thing. For years in the black community, we blamed everything that happened to the extraordinary Whitney Houston on Bobby Brown. Bobby must have done it. It must have been the influence of Bobby. And as it turns out, no, not really, not so much. Whitney was kind of Whitney when Bobby met her, and that's why she liked him.
Yeah.
Well, what was interesting in the documentary is that everybody in the documentary, all the family members, the doc was done with the cooperation of the family, which, as you know, sometimes can be difficult because everybody's trying to protect themselves or burnish their image or not be very truthful to the camera. But I found everybody was very truthful. I mean, there was a lot of tragic things admitted during this documentary. But the one guy who literally shut McDonald down and McDonald used it is Bobby Brown. So when Kevin McDonald asked Bobby Brown, and you hear Kevin McDonald's voice in the documentary, when he asked Bobby Brown how much drugs had to do with the death of Whitney Houston, he said, "I'm not going to answer that." And he said that not because it's too private or because it's too tragic or because he doesn't want to relive it. It's because he doesn't want to say something that's going to wind up incriminating him in the public eye. So he says, "I'm not going to talk about that." So there's a lot going on with that guy. I'm not a Bobby Brown fan, but I mean, I love his music. Who didn't love Bobby Brown's music? His music.
Oh, the music of New Edition. Can you stop? Yeah.
Let me tell you something. I think, you know what I think? I think Cole Porter, Frank Sinatra, Bruce Springsteen, Bobby Brown. It's a continuum.
I'm just thinking somewhere, Belle Biv and DeVoe are standing around thinking, man, we dodged a bullet.
Dodged a bullet in that one. That was the mess.
So it's been a lot of fun here. It's I did go see it. Probably the biggest film here was The Sisters Brothers. I went to the press conference with director Jacques Audiard.
I hear it's great.
Stars Joaquin Phoenix and John C. Reilly. And that was a lot of fun, especially now, you guys will love this. So, Joaquin Phoenix is notoriously press shy.
Yeah.
And so we're sitting at this press conference, and everyone loves John C. Reilly. But, of course, all the questions go to Jacques Audiard because he's a French director. It's a French festival, basically. Nothing but French press there, some Americans. So Jacques is getting all the questions. And some of the questions went to some of the actors, and Joaquin Phoenix literally, for the entire length of the press conference, says nothing. Even the questions that were directed to him, he said nothing. And then at the very end, the very last question, they're asked, both actors are asked about what it's like to work with, or why they wanted to work with Jacques. And of course, John C. gives his usual, entertaining John C. answer.
Yeah. And
then at the very end, Joaquin finally says, "I wanted to work with Jacques because I liked the way he talked about the characters." And that was the only thing he said in an entire 30-minute press conference. And when he said those words, conference was over. So Joaquin Phoenix literally sat there for 29 minutes and 45 seconds of a press conference saying nothing, and then he got hit. And then he got in the last dozen words, and the press conference was over.
That's very Nick Park-like. When I've been at press junkets with Nick Park and Peter Lord, it's almost like the reason, the Aardman guys. It's almost like the reason that they are partners is because Peter Lord does not stop talking. He's very gregarious. He's very outgoing. He's very engaging. And Nick Park is very he's like the soft talker on Seinfeld. He will just sit there, very introverted, very shy, and you literally almost have to run over and grab him by the lapels and shake him to get him to chime in on something.
No, it was the same way with James Ivory and Ishmael Merchant.
Yeah.
I mean, you could not shut Ishmael Merchant up. and he would very happily explain to you exactly what James Ivory was thinking when James did this or James did that. Well, let me explain to you what James was thinking, and James was perfectly happy to let him. So I don't know. Some people are the guys with the microphone.
Yeah, there you go.
By the way, if you Blu-ray fans, one of the documentaries here was The Great Buster, a celebration, which is Peter Bogdanovich's documentary about Buster Keaton, which I think is going to be on Cohen Media's re-release of all the Buster's films. Now, Wade Majors, is that correct?
I guess I hadn't heard of this. I did not know this even existed. So that's very.
This
exciting.
is what I have heard, that Cohen Media bankrolled this documentary. Peter Bogdanovich directed it, and he also narrates it. And from what I had heard, Cohen's going to put that documentary as a major extra on some sort of re-release of Buster Keaton's films. I don't know if it's which films, maybe his feature-length films, maybe just his short course.
This is a feature-length doc by Peter Bogdanovich?
Oh, yes. Feature-length. It's about an hour and 45 minutes. It's pretty standard. I mean, Bogdanovich doesn't really do much or say much we haven't heard before, but, it's Peter Bogdanovich. He's been around for a long time. He's Oscar nominated. He deserves his shot at telling the story of Keaton. He's done documentaries before.
It's pretty great.
I guess he's on that Orson Welles doc that Netflix did for The Other Side of the Wind. Netflix released The Other Side of the Wind, and I think they produced a doc about The Other Side of the Wind. Who is that? Morgan? Is that Morgan? Morgan Neville or something? I can't remember who.
Morgan Neville. Yeah, Morgan Neville sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Well,
so interesting.
Because Cohen owns the Rohauer collection, and the Rohauer collection is one of the two major silent film archives. There's Rohauer and there's Black Hawk, which was David Shepard's collection. And David Shepard's Black Hawk films are basically divided between Flicker Alley and Kino. So all of their pressings of D.W. Griffith and Keaton and whatever, that all comes out through Kino. But there's also really, really good prints, in some cases even better ones with the Rohauer collection, which are slowly coming out through Cohen. So that means that Cohen is going to release a Buster Keaton set of some kind, and that's pretty great that they're going to have the Bogdanovich on it. That's great. That's really good news. That's breaking news.
I'm looking forward to seeing. Love to see that.
Mark just broke news. It's a scoop. It's a scoop.
Let me tell you something. You know what? You learn a lot here in Deauville. First of all, you learn how to spend 21 euros on a drink.
Yeah.
I've learned that. Deauville's actually a very nice town. It's nightlife-wise, there's really not much going on, but it's a beautiful town. I'm really enjoying my time here. I've seen a lot of films. Today's the last day. The only two films, just to be honest with our longtime listeners and fans, the only two films I'm going to miss, which I am very angry about, is the Hal Ashby documentary.
I watched it last night.
You know what? Did they send you a link, or did they?
They sent me a link. But do you now? By the way, you should know this. Do you know? That kind of came across Dave Barnblatt in my desk 4 years ago. Do you know this?
No.
See, that's interesting because, as we've mentioned on the show before, Melinda Dillon, who was in Close Encounters and Absence of Malice, Oscar nominated, a very good friend of ours. I grew up with her son, Mark, and Mark knows her son as well. So years ago, Dave Barnblatt and I re-edited her reel for her. Now, she was also in a Hal Ashby film. She played a double role in Bound for Glory. So Dave, our friend Dave Barnblatt, who is a producer of commercials and music videos and documentaries, Dave was somehow through his connections, the women who were making Hal 4 years ago, when it was not called Hal, it was called something else, they came into contact with him, and Melinda came up, and he said, "I know Melinda. We could see if she's interested in maybe being interviewed for the film." And so I don't think Melinda wound up actually doing an interview for it, but that was 4 years ago that they were kind of scoping out and trying to get hold of people and putting it together. So I've been waiting for 4 years to find out what would happen to that film, and it finally came together, and it is really good. I mean, it's actually, I will say this, I think it's too short. It's about 90 minutes long. And they don't really cover his films from the 80s. They mainly focus on those those 7 films from the 70s. or that like 7-year period. Was it 5 films in 7 years, something like that? And so it's pretty much, that collection of movies in the 70s and his life. And in 90 minutes, you really blow through it. This could very easily have been a 3-hour documentary to me, just throwing more clips, more interviews. But there are a lot of people who are not interviewed, like Goldie Hawn and Warren Beatty are not interviewed. But what they have is great. Norman Jewison's all over it. When you got Jewison, it's all good. So you will see it when you get back, Mark. It's great. Here's my question.
Well, I've requested a link from the publicist waiting to hear back. The other film, by the way, I have not seen because I got here too late. Is Galveston, which is with Ben Foster and Elle Fanning, directed by Melanie Laurent.
Yeah.
Oh, Melanie.
When I interviewed her for Cocoa, she was talking about that. So I'm really curious to see how that turns out. Here's a question, Mark.
Stop showing off. What now?
You've been in Deauville all this time. Have you learned how to make dough?
No, but I have learned how to make a Ville, and Ville is delicious. The tough part is separating the ingredients and just mixing them at the right time. But if you can make a great Ville, then you really learned something very valuable here.
All right, very good.
I don't know what I just said, Wade. I made that up. You know what? Wade, I'm going to work on that. I'm going to work on that and get right back to you.
Oh yeah, perfect.
That's so terrible.
All right.
Well, so terrible.
Guys, this is all good. I think the listeners will be thrilled. Mark, we're looking forward to getting you. I don't know where do you go after this? You're a vagabond now.
I'm a temporary vagabond. So I leave Deauville tomorrow morning. The festival ends tomorrow, but the awards are tonight. So I'll just get out of town tomorrow morning. I'm going to head back to Paris, and I'm just going to continue blowing through money with complete abandon.
Fantastic.
Complete abandon or reckless abandon, because they're not the same.
Is that right? Wait, what is the difference between complete abandon and reckless? I guess complete just means fully, but reckless means dangerous.
Yes.
Exactly, brother.
There you go.
I'm doing both. So congratulations.
Congratulations.
All right, and on that note, we will let you go, and we will get back to our regular podcast this week.
Mark!
I now return you to your regularly scheduled podcast.